stand is Ruben Amorim's press conference ahead of the Arsenal game on Sunday. Who's excited for the Arsenal game? I don't think many Manchester United fans are. I think it's a good opportunity to see some of our younger players. I think there will be some rotation. I think there should be some rotation as all eyes are on a cup final for Manchester United, which is Real Sociedad, just under a week away. It is a cup final and we have to get through. It is the Europa League or nothing for Manchester United. It's a bit of a dead rubber game, this Arsenal game, which is really unfortunate because you have Arsenal, who aren't going to win the title, it's another nearly season for them, and Manchester United, who can't get Europe, can't get relegation. It's just kind of a nothing game, but it is Arsenal. You do want to win above all things, and Ruben Amorim's been talking about that, and most importantly, he's been talking about the protests. The protests are a good thing, and Manchester United fans should use their voice. That is from the Manchester United manager. We'll get into his quotes on the protests and how important the protests will be. I think that's the best thing that's going to come out of Sunday's game is the protest about how Manchester United is being run, and we'll talk about Ruben Amorim's comments on that. Mason Mount set to return. Injury updates on Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Ugarte, whether Ahmad can be back for the Europa League final, and Ruben Amorim talking about the comparisons to Mikel Arteta when he first started off at Arsenal. Cheeto, could he be in line for a start as well? Ruben Amorim thinks he could be. Get your comments in down below, let me know your thoughts, and let's get into the press conference. Happy Friday, everyone. Woke up in a really good mood today. Manchester United drew a game, they didn't lose one, so we're getting somewhere, and we still have hope in the Europa League. Happy Friday. Positive vibes, let's get going. So, the protest, Ruben Amorim said, for everybody in our club, it's a really tough moment. It's everything at the same time. The only thing I can do, and our players can do, is perform well and win. People have the right to protest. I think it's a good thing to do that. It's part of our club. Everybody has a voice, but our job and my job is just to improve the team and give them something in this moment because they deserve it and they are amazing. I think that's absolutely true from Ruben Amorim. Everybody deserves a voice. Everybody deserves to be heard. It's just like on the United stand, it's a community. Whether we agree or disagree in our opinions, as long as we put it forward in a respectable way, everybody's opinions are welcome. Everyone's thoughts are welcome. It doesn't matter if you're from Manchester. It doesn't matter if you live on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter where you're from. You are part of our United community. And the United fan base, it's the same. It's a worldwide fan base. Whether you're protesting at the game on Saturday or you're just wearing your green and gold scarf from halfway across the planet, whatever you're doing, putting stuff out on social media, as long as we do it in a respectable way, I think it's so important that everybody has their right to have a voice. And I think Ruben Amorim is echoing the thoughts of a lot of Manchester United fans that we need to be heard and we need to be taken seriously. I've seen a lot of people dismissing Manchester United fans. I saw it on TalkSport. I saw the Simon Jordan and the 1958 interview. And I don't want to go too much over that because I know Goldbridge has already spoken about it. But I do think, Simon Jordan dominated that conversation. A lot of what he was saying wasn't actually accurate on how Manchester United fans feel and the portrayal of what the Glazer ownership has been. And a lot of people will take that as what is actually happening at Manchester United, but it's not. And Manchester United fans deserve to be heard, and we have a right to use our voices. And it's nice that the Manchester United manager is recognising that, because it feels like the ownership hasn't recognised that. It feels like the ownership hasn't recognised the concerns of the fan base. It feels like we are treated like we're stupid a lot of the time. It does feel like the wool is tried to be pulled over our eyes, and the fan base deserve to be listened to, they deserve to be heard. So I'm glad Ruben Amorim can acknowledge that, because the most important thing about this football club is the fans. It's the fans. That's what we live and breathe, the football club. That's what the football club's built upon. And I think the protests are going to be really interesting to see on Sunday. We'll be at Old Trafford for the game and we'll be there at the protest, and it'll be really interesting to see how big they get and whether they get listened to or not. But I think it's important that Manchester United fans do use their voice to let their opinions be shown. Next up, he talks about the injuries on Harry Maguire and Manuel Ugarte. They were missing for the Sociedad game. Are they back for the Arsenal game? He says, I don't know. We need to survive Sunday. The team was so tired in the last 20 minutes. We have to prepare for Sunday and think about this important game for our season on Thursday. In this moment, I don't know. I think that quote is so telling as to how Ruben Amorim's feeling. We have to survive Sunday. Manchester United versus Arsenal over the history books. It's a game that it still has iconic moments now, like that you look back on. I still remember every single year my dad shows me, even though I've seen it a million times, the Vieira versus Keane in the tunnel. Shows it me every single time. There's so many iconic moments from Arsenal versus Manchester United. But we're here in 2025 and it's a bit of a dead rubber game. And the Manchester United manager, while we're sat in 14th, is saying that we have to survive it. And I'm not criticising him for it because he's right. Thursday is a more important game. If Ugarte is fit, save him for Thursday. If Harry Maguire is close to being fit, potentially save him for Thursday, because we did look dead on our feet in the last 20 minutes of Real Sociedad. Look at our bench. We didn't even fill the bench. The only players on our bench was Christian Eriksen and Victor Lindelof, really. The others were youth players that Ruben Amorim hasn't trusted to play minutes yet. Like, we are dead on our feet, and, Xerxes played so many minutes, playing into extra time, having dead leg, having cramp. He's not the only one. Bruno Fernandes, De Ligt, Mazraoui. Mazraoui's doing Ramadan right now. He's fasting and he's having to play all of these minutes, and he's doing a fantastic job. Players, first-team players at Manchester United, you can criticise the performances. Dallow's another one. He's shed loads of criticism, but every single game, he just plays and plays and plays and plays. We are dead on our feet. We've not got a squad. And the Arsenal game is about survival. You don't want to be embarrassed. And of course you want to win at Old Trafford. But the fact of the matter is, if I could choose to win on Sunday or Thursday, I'm choosing Thursday every single day of the week. Ultimately, it's bragging rights on Sunday. Thursday is the chance of European football, Champions League football next season, a trophy. Ruben Amorim getting more investment in the summer. The difference between getting an Osimhen or getting a striker that, again, is just another potential player. That's how much it can affect us not being in Europe with the sponsorship deals and the revenue. So, and the fact of winning a trophy. Thursday's the most important. We do have to survive Sunday. It's sad where we're at, but I think Ruben Amorim is right on that. And I'm going to be really interested to see how many rotations he actually makes, because we've got to play some of our players. I'm sure Bruno Fernandes is going to start. I'm sure there's going to be some first-team players that are going to have to start. We don't have enough players to field two different 11s, but I do think some players are going to need to be rested and rotated. To be fair, if Harry Maguire is back, I actually would play him, because I think Mazraoui needs a rest. He's playing every minute and he's so important to us. I mean, Lenny Yoro has really stepped up, and he's been one of the shining lights of the last few games, looking a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident. He's looking good. But you don't want to overplay him and risk any injury at his age. So some players are going to need to be rotated, and players are going to have to step in. But I think it's a real opportunity for some of the youth players, and I would put the trust in the youth. What is the worst that can happen? Our performances haven't been great anyway. And as good as Arsenal played against PSV, and they smashed them up 7-1, didn't they? In the Premier League, they haven't really looked like much of a goal threat. And I think defensively we are okay. We are quite solid. So if we set up right, it won't be a humiliation, and we could maybe nick a goal and give some of the academy players a chance at Old Trafford against a really good side. So it'll be interesting to see how many rotations he makes. Get us in the comments down below. Who should start? How many rotations? Who do you think needs a rest? Who would you be prioritising to save for that game on Thursday? Let me know your thoughts. Just kind of off the back of that as well. I wanted to bring in another thing that Ruben Amorim said, about making rotations, and it's just kind of muddled up here. Let me get it 1 second. Here it is. So when I said that Ruben Amorim's going to make rotations, and he talks about how Thursday is an important game of our season, he also says, in the Premier League, every game is really important. In our moment, we need to win. That's true. It's always a problem when we don't win. We have to focus on everything at the same time. I think the biggest problem is not having all of the players. In the beginning, people talk about our rotation, especially in Europe, changing all the time. And it's because of this. The Europa League, in my opinion, is so much harder than the Champions League. Not the actual game, but the recovery to play in the Premier League on the weekend. So we have to deal with that. So he's basically saying the recovery time of playing Thursday, Sunday is harder on the players than playing Champions League on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and then playing potentially on a Saturday in the Premier League. He thinks it's a tougher turnaround to play Europa League football. That's another reason why he's had to rotate earlier on in the season. But now he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, because everyone wants us to obviously go and win against Arsenal. It's not acceptable to go into a game and accept defeat. But at the same time, Thursday is literally... our season is on the line and we have to win, and he's got to prioritise that game. And I'm glad that he's actually come to terms with that and spoken about that, because I was a little bit critical of how dismissal he was of the Europa League, saying we have to look at the long-term vision, and of course, the Europa League, we want to win it, but a trophy's not going to save our season. And I was kind of thinking, like, we do have to win the Europa League because, one, you get investment, and two, you might not have the opportunity to be here for the long-term vision if you don't win it. Because as much as I want him to be here and I want him to get back, and I believe in him, and I think we need to stop changing the manager at Manchester United. He's only on a 2-year deal, and if he doesn't get the players in that he needs to play his system, which he's not going to change and shouldn't change, we've seen that he's not going to work with these players. He needs as much change as possible, and for the investment to happen, European football has to happen, and for the amount of investment that he needs, and for it to happen in a shorter period of time. So I'm glad he's stressing the importance of the Europa League again, because I didn't want that message of it just being, of it not being as important as what we're kind of making out to transcend to the players, because it is absolutely crucial. Also in terms of other players coming back fit, he gets asked about Mason Mount and Luke Shaw, and if any other players can be back this season, i.e. Ahmad, Kobe, the long-term injuries. He said, I think it's just Ahmad and Lissandro who won't be back this season. But even Ahmad, we will see in the last month. I don't want to say anything, but I have the hope to have Ahmad before the end of the season. Get in. Ahmad to score the Europa League winner. Lissandro is out. Kobe can return. Maguire, we have to be careful. Manuel Ugarte will return. I think Luke Shaw and Mount can return. Also, he then goes on to say that definitely Mount will be back. He says, because he gets asked, so if you reach the final, Ahmad, can he maybe be back? And he says, let's talk Sunday and we'll see. Others are definitely going to return, especially Mason Mount. So Mason Mount will be back. I'd be shocked if he lasts more than 3 games, and that's me being generous. Ahmad back for the final. Oh, if you can get him back a couple games before the final, that's ideal, because then you don't have to rush him in. He can come off the bench. He can build his fitness back up. It's a long-term injury. You've got to get into the swing of things. And then final, to have Ahmad back, who, let's be honest, him and Bruno are our only real goal threats, and he's our best attacking player and probably our most talented player. To have him back would be a huge boost for the team. Huge boost in confidence level of the fans. It would just give a massive boost to the whole team. And with the success he's had this season, I think he'll have the confidence to go out there and do something for us in a final. And we've seen him step up in big moments before. That's his bread and butter. Etihad away won us that game. FA Cup against Liverpool, when he was barely getting any game time under Erik ten Hag, he came off the bench to win us the game, and he got given pretty much hospital pass and still stuck it bottom corner. He's really good under pressure, Ahmad. He scores against big teams and he scores in big moments. So to have him back for a Europa League final, if obviously we get there, we've got to get there first. We've got to get past Sociedad. Then you've got to continue and get past the other teams. That would be a huge boost to this team. Do you guys have any excitement on having Mason Mount back, by the way? How do you feel about that? Because he will definitely be back. Do you have any excitement for that or not? I forget he's a United player, to be honest. I actually forget he's a United player, but if he does get back fit, at least it gives us another option in them number 10 roles. We all know that Alejandro Garnacho is a much better player off the bench. He's a super sub. Mount definitely won't be able to last a full 90. I can't believe I'm even talking about the possibility of him being fit. But if he is fit, I think Mount is in a good position to be able to start a game as a left-sided 10. Obviously, he's not going to be able to last a full game. Say if he comes off at like the 60th minute, Garnacho coming on, I think that could be a really good substitution to use to help win us games and give us a boost in the second half when Alejandro Garnacho is at his most lethal coming off the bench. So that could be some sort of a boost for us, and and a tactic we could use going into future games in the season. Like I said, I'm only really bothered about the Europa League now. Of course, I want to win in the Prem because you just want to win, but it's not really a big deal. He also gets asked if Chido can start on Sunday. I absolutely would be starting Chido. Højlund's another one who's playing a lot of minutes. Xerxes playing a lot of minutes. They have to play on Thursday because Chido is ineligible. Chido did really well when he came off the bench against Fulham. What's the worst that can happen? Even if he missed an open net, I don't think the fan base would criticise him. I genuinely don't. I think everyone's so behind the youth players and just being able to bring some of the talent through right now that the Old Trafford crowd will absolutely support him from the first minute until the last. I think it'd give him a big boost, especially playing against his old club in Arsenal. So he gets asked if Chido can start. Everybody can start. If they are in training tomorrow, if they play today, they can be ready. And Chido is on the list, so he can play. I would start him. I'd also start Aiden Heaven as well. Like I said, I think Mazraoui needs a rest. I think Lenny Yoro needs a rest. Dalit could even need a rest. Aiden Heaven looked good coming on against Fulham. He looked a lot better than I expected, actually. He looked really comfortable. His old club in Arsenal, start him. Arsenal, I don't want to underestimate them because they're obviously a much better side than us and they're doing a lot better in the Premier League and they were in a title race. They're kind of out of it now. And they did beat PSV 7-1. So they can score goals, but they've not got an out-and-out striker as well, which helps when you have, the likes of an Aiden Heaven coming in who is a young centre-back that is coming into the team. So I would start him. I'd also start Obi. I'd be tempted to start Harry Armas. I'm going to be honest. I think he's been knocking on the door for minutes for a long time. And Dorgu took a little knock to his hip. I don't want to risk him either. Oh, I don't think Dorgu can actually play. I think he's still banned, isn't he? So Harry Armas is in line as well. Because I think Mazraoui has to rest. Dalot just keeps playing game after game after game. One of them's going to have to play if Dorgu is banned. So Harry Armas is another one that I would be watching. Amorim also gets asked about helping the forwards score goals. He says, you just have to sell them the idea. These movements that we did sometimes today, we have to work and show the image, but at the end they have to score. If they score, it's going to be so much easier. Højlund needs to score the first one. Basically, when you're waiting for a bus and then they all come at once, that's what Amorim's kind of trying to push the narrative that if Højlund just gets off the mark, hopefully they can continue with that confidence. I think that's just, it's hoping, isn't it? It's just hoping. You've got to hope because we've not got anybody else, but let the records show and the past 18 games have shown that he's not as capable as what we need of a number 9 playing for Manchester United. Of course, there's mitigating factors. There's not enough service. Dalot, yesterday when he didn't play that cross, it was ridiculous. You have to play that cross into him. And there was other occasions where he was in the box and players are just making silly decisions and not getting the ball to him. And he doesn't get as much service as he needs, but he still has to do better. He has to do better in all areas of his game, Rasmus. So all Amorim can really do is back him publicly because he doesn't really have anybody else. He then also gets asked about any chance of rotating versus Arsenal, and Thursday is a big game, but we could be drained by Sunday, so do you have to make rotations? He said, one thing at a time, we will think about Sunday and then we will see. When you're at this kind of club, you cannot think like that with a small squad in this moment. We are trying to see all of the players who are fresh and are not in danger of getting an injury. Even with that, we have to risk a little bit, but we still want to be competitive on Sunday. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think it's going to be some first teamers and I think there's going to be some rotations in as well from the youth. Lastly, he gets asked, Arteta dealt with some big players out of with getting some big players out of Arsenal and it made Arsenal a force again. Is that similarities in what you face at Manchester United? I think that's a really good question actually, because Arteta did come in and he did get some questions asked of him when he moved Aubameyang out of the club, when he moved Ozil out of the club, two of the senior players at Arsenal that a lot of the fans liked, and he did get asked questions. Aubameyang was the captain and there was that kind of power play between him and Arteta won it, and it was the right move, looking back in hindsight, to move Aubameyang out and Ozil out as good as they were. And Ruben Amorim said, "I don't feel that. I will not have the time Arteta had. I feel that it is a different club, so we just need to survive with the players on Sunday, and we are doing these games. I think it's a different club. I think in that aspect, the way Arteta has dealt with that is an inspiration for everybody, but I will not have the time like Arteta had." And I think that's really bold from Ruben Amorim to say that, and I think it's honest. It does worry me slightly that the other day he was speaking about winning big in the future, and he was like, "I might not be manager," and then he's saying, "I won't have time," and I think he's just kind of being realistic in the sense of we are losing consistently, the performances aren't good, and at Manchester United we are in a hurry to get back to the top, and our cycle has been sack manager, sack manager, sack manager. Now the fans don't want that to happen. The majority, I'm not speaking for everyone, but the majority of the fan base want Amorim to be given time to implement his system and to create this long-term vision and culture at the club. However, he's only on a 2-year contract. Ineos were very careful to give him only a 2-year contract. We've seen how instinctive they were at getting rid of Dan Ashworth when they chased him. And it was very flippant, the way that Dan Ashworth went. So I think Amorim's wise to kind of put it out there that, I'm not going to have all the time in the world. But when he talks about surviving this season, he absolutely will be the manager. Hopefully, you can never say 100%, but I think 99% chance he will be the manager going into next season. I think he's talking about surviving this season because he never wanted to come into Manchester United midway through a season. He didn't. United basically said it's now or never, and they basically forced him into taking the job midway through a season. His tenure at Manchester United has already started, but I think he only really starts to get judgment from next season. I think he's got to survive to the end with a set of players that probably the majority of them he doesn't want to keep, and he's going to be looking to ship out. You get to the summer transfer window, he will tell the board who he sees as part of his future, who he doesn't, who needs to go sooner rather than later. The board will come back to him saying, well, this player we're not really going to be able to move on because his book value's this and no one's going to offer that, so how do we work that one? And they're also going to come back to him saying, well, we can sell this player, we can sell that player, and this is the amount of money you're going to have to invest, what are your priorities? And they will plan together for the future of Manchester United. So surviving the season for Ruben Amorim, he's right. We're not going to get relegated in the Prem. We're not going to get Europe in the Prem. Everyone's kind of accepted that now. You've got to show a bit of something, but I don't think anyone's expecting drastic changes. We're suffering with injuries and no one's really coming back into the squad. We might get a boost of Kobbie Mainoo and Ahmad. Apart from that, we're not really going to have anything. No one expects some massive turnaround this season. What he does have to prioritise is the Europa League, because that can be huge in terms of the boost from the fans, the boost of having a trophy under your belt when the media starts circling like vultures next season, when you start losing games, if we do lose games, because they will circle quickly. And to have that trophy gives you a little bit of sort of breathing room. But most importantly, he needs to get players in. He wants Kenda. He wants a striker. We need a left-sided 10. Apparently he wants a goalkeeper. And we probably need a 6 as well. There's so many players he needs, and he's not going to be able to get all of them. But to make that start and have the confidence of the board and the fans in the summer to get your signings in is important, and the Europa League is massive to that. The Premier League is about surviving. But I've said it, and I think a lot of people feel this. Some people might already be like, you know what, it's Manchester United. You get judged every single game you play. From the car crash he walked into, and in January given one player who is a 20-year-old left wing back who's still, learning his trade, and then having the outgoings that he's had and not really being backed whatsoever, the injuries he's had, the situation he's walked into, the ownership, what that's been like since he's come into the club. And he basically said in a press conference, he wasn't really told the full truth about our situation. Dan Ashworth being sacked, all the things he's had to deal with. For me, I will be judging him from the start of next season. Of course I want to win the Europa League. Of course I do. And I will criticise games if we don't perform to our best standard, and I feel like he could have made different decisions, and it goes against us, I'll always be honest about my analysis of United. But Amorim as a manager, I think he's learnt a lot this season. I think he's been thrown right into the deep end. I want to wait for him to get some players in, get some players out in the summer, and let's see what he can deliver next season. I think that's what he's talking about when he says surviving the season. But look, everyone, thank you very much for getting your comments in. Hit a like on the video if you haven't already. The 12th thread says, buzzing for the Arsenal game, need to take the same energy we brought to San Sebastian last night. We were so loud in the away end, let's go. Yes, I heard the Man United away end. I was gutted I wasn't in San Sebastian. It's such a lovely city and the Real Arena is a good arena, but a good stadium. But United away fans are always absolutely incredible. And I definitely think I think the atmosphere will be fantastic in Old Trafford anyway, because everyone will be buzzing off the protests that are happening. And remember, to have your voices heard. But I think if some youngsters do start, which I'm hoping they will, that'll raise the levels in Old Trafford even further. When I'm looking at the starting 11 for Manchester United, trying to think if I could name it now, you'd probably have Onana in goal. You'd have a back three of, I'd have Aiden Heaven, Maguire if he's back fit, if not De Ligt for that leadership, and have we got anyone else? Probably Victor Lindelof, to be honest with you, because we've got to prioritise Thursday. Your wing backs would probably be Dalot and Armas. That's what I'd do. Your two midfielders would be Casemiro and Bruno. Bruno's going to play. He's captain and he plays through brick walls. He'll play every single game. He just doesn't ever seem to kind of touch wood, break down. Your two tens will be, I said Garnacho was tired coming off, but we know Garnacho is really good when it comes to not being injury prone. Your two tens would probably be Christian Eriksen and Alejandro Garnacho, and then your striker maybe Cheeto up front. I think he's going to make some rotations into that team. And I think some players do need to be rested. I think Xerxes is one of them that does need a rest. He looked dead on his feet the last couple of games. And he's been one of our better players, so I would like to protect him. Look, everyone, thank you for watching. Oh, Collier. A lot of you people talking about Collier. Yeah, that actually makes sense. So let me rewind. Collier, if Collier is available, my starting 11 would be Onana, Aiden Heaven, either De Ligt or Maguire, depending on who's fit enough. You need a leader in there to help Aiden Heaven. You'd then have Lindelof, because you'd save Mazraoui and Yoro for Thursday. You'd have your wing backs as Dalot and Armas. You'd have your two midfielders as Casemiro and Collier. You'd have your two tens as Bruno and Eriksen, maybe. There's not really much pace in there. And then Cheeto up front. I think you've just got to kind of make do with what you can and save players for Thursday that are going to be important for that game and are at risk of injury. Get your comments in down below, your thoughts. Let me know all of your opinions down below in the comments. Remember the protest at Old Trafford on Sunday. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hit a like on the video if you're not already. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.